decision isn't yours to make. Don't lie about the way things are. The tall tales will take you very far.
Hey everyone, it's Marianne from the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees. I want to do this quick video, and it might not be quick, on a recap of the Municipal Labor Committee, and especially on the eve of them trying to negotiate this or vote on this healthcare plan on September 30th. That's supposed to take place at the Municipal Labor Committee meeting on the 30th at DC 37 headquarters. So I want to give a little recap of what the MLC is, what their power is and isn't. And if you as a union feel that you don't have enough information to cast your vote at this meeting, don't. And I'm going to explain to you why, because this gets lost in translation way too often, that people think that the Municipal Labor Committee has the exclusive right to bargain for healthcare, because of course that's what you keep being told by the two largest unions in the city, which benefit from you doing this. So I want to show you the construct and the history, and then move into a little bit of the health plan. And if you have some questions, I can always take those. But I want to try to keep this part of it kind of brief. So I want to show you, I had done this, about a year ago. The two largest unions in the Municipal Labor Committee are the UFT and DC 37. The UFT cast the largest single vote, but DC 37 has like 62 locals under it, and most of them are in the MLC. Some of them aren't. And then you see all these other unions coming into the screen. Some of them are bigger than others, right? So some of the largest unions have a larger vote. The United Federation of Teachers has the largest single vote. They hold about 1/3. Well, about 1/3. Between DC 37 has 1/3 if all 62 locals vote in the same way in the United Federation of Teachers. But remember, under DC 37, they don't get one vote, one large, huge vote. They get a lot of little votes. But how does that happen? We've known from past voting that Henry Garrido, from the District Council Executive Director, has gone to his locals and said, hey, listen, give me your proxy. Let me vote for you. I'm going to this meeting today. And sometimes he doesn't tell them what the vote's about. Sometimes he doesn't tell them what he's voting for. Maybe the president might say how they want to vote, but I can't make the meeting. Henry Garrido takes the proxy and he votes the way he wants. The proxy always goes to the House. And we learned this when several new presidents were freaked out 4 years ago when they learned that their proxy was given to Henry to do the right thing, or to do whatever the member thought that the president would be, executive director would be doing in the best interest. But he didn't realize, or they didn't realize, what Henry was doing. And that's how we learned how the abuse of these proxies has been handled. Union presidents in the district council give their proxy to Henry Garrido. Henry votes the way the House wanted to vote, because he had this inside deal under that 2018 agreement that would vote the way that I guess he wanted to vote for with the United Federation of Teachers. So a 2/3 vote is required to pass any motion in the MLC. With just DC 37 and the United Federation of Teachers, they could do that. Now, let's move on. And so you understand the construct, because every union has one vote for every 250 members. And that's how they get to that. That has never changed since 1966. And it wasn't until the late 80s did the UFT get into the MLC. And that was because Al Shanker, then leader of UFT, didn't get along with Victor Gottbaum, then leader of DC 37. And they just couldn't stand each other. So if DC 37 wanted to pass that 2/3 motion, he had to get a lot of other unions to agree with him. Now, instead of that, you have this very undemocratic way where they say that this is the way to do healthcare bargaining, and just basically these two unions rule the roost. Doesn't have to work that way. The MLC was not created to be a bargaining unit, and much to many people's surprise, it does not hold a bargaining certificate. Literally, the MLC is really basically a coalition. It's an administrative body that was created in 1966. It was also the same time collective bargaining was born, and their job was to facilitate and coordinate activities and be informational. It was not supposed to bargain. This has not changed. The MLC has no negotiating power, although they claim that they do. That's because they have usurped it from the members. And OCB appears to be letting them get away with it, but I'm going to talk more about that later, because the MLC has also recognized that this is an unanswered question that they've just not answered. And why do they get away with it, or let them get away with it? Really, because they're kind of doing the bidding of the city. The Office of Collective Bargaining and the Office of Labor Relations, they're lazy. OLR doesn't want to have to negotiate with like 200 unions. So when they say healthcare negotiations are done with the MLC, there's this one body. And then they keep creating these other little committees, like little committees of like 5 or 7 or 10 people or 3 people. And then you can never find out who's on them, because this whole committee is born in secrecy. We've filed FOIL, we've filed requests, we've emailed Ellen Medwood, who's a DC 37 employee who is the administrative secretary of the MLC. We've emailed Harry Naspoli. We've contacted Alan Klinger over the last 4 years. They never reply. They don't answer emails. They don't even have a website. You can never tell who's on any of these committees or steering committees, and this whole program is born in secrecy. This is not democracy, it's not transparency, and it is not supposed to be the way collective bargaining is. This is not why labor relations had put together this whole program of Municipal Labor Committee. Unlike unions, the MLC does not represent its member, which represent their member unions. The MLC does not collectively bargain with the city concerning wages, hours, and work conditions. The unions do. And we have 2 legal documents, affidavits from James Hanley, the former Assistant Director of Labor Relations, and Arvid Anderson, the Director of the Office of Collective Bargaining, that specifically state that fact. And yet it's been abused time and time again. This was the birth, in 1966, the birth of collective bargaining. The MLC's purpose was largely, like I said, for administrative purposes and to share information. The only citywide bargaining was for DC 37 locals, and that's because it was the largest umbrella union of all these like little locals underneath it. The MLC, again, does not have a bargaining certificate. They've assumed this power, and it is not legal. However, they operate like a coalition, and every time you vote, you give them that power. In 2014, you've seen this is the United Federation of Teachers contract. That 2014 MLC agreement was the very first time a union negotiated a contract partially funded on the backs of other unions and retirees. To me, this was criminal. This is an improper practice, and it violated the faith of all these other unions. Brotherhood, solidarity, gone. That's what this did. It killed this. This was dangerous, and only a few unions recognized this at the time, but due to this weighted voting structure, of course, it passed. The unions were told they had to vote, they had to do this, but in fact, they did not. And then in 2018, it became DC 37's chance to do the same thing. The 2018 MLC agreement now was born. This was the second time a practice of negotiating a contract that was made contingent on an MLC agreement, and this one had far-reaching effects that they're still realizing today, because they said that they would create all these savings, $200 million in 19, $300 million in 20, and $600 million in 2021, and recurring thereafter, without ever saying how they would do it. Remember that line, because the active worker non-Medicare retiree plan that right now that they are trying to pass in the MLC next week, this plan has the same kind of built-in savings. The unions in the MLC promise the city $1 billion in savings, and nowhere in there does it lay out how they'll do it, and they don't lay out what will happen if they don't. This is another example of exactly that. And both the 14 and 18 agreements were rolled into every single union's collective bargaining agreement, whether you guys knew it or not. When you ratified your contract, you might have seen an appendix or a side letter, and that was the 14 and the 18 MLC agreements. No union leader at the time, except for one union, stood up for their members and refused to enroll them into their CBAs. The only one that did not do that at the time was the PBA, because they knew that this was wrong. 14 and 18 marked the first time in history that a union negotiated their contracts on other people's backs. I believe, as does our council, that the rights of employees, and this is New York City collective bargaining law right here. I'm going to show you this. You could look this up. New York City collective bargaining law 12-305, rights of public employees and certified employee organizations, which are unions. That you have, public employees have the right to self-organize and form a union and collectively bargain through your certified employee organization. Not have Michael Mulgrew do it for you, or Henry Garrido do it for you, or the MLC do it for you, who isn't a bargaining unit that you're not in. And we believe, as in 12-306, it's an improper practice, good faith bargaining. It is an improper for public employer practices if it's improper for a public employer or its agents to interfere, restrain, or coerce public employees to exercise of their rights granted under 12-305 of this chapter to dominate or interfere with the formation or administration of any public employee organization. And that includes your collective bargaining. So what OLR has been doing is encouraging this tripartite committee, which is of the MLC, which is one labor person, which is Alan Klinger, who is a lawyer who represents every union on the executive board of the MLC plus a few others. How can he represent the interests of all the other union members when he represents the UFT, DC 37, 237, CWA sanitation? It's impossible. He does what the House wants, especially the two largest unions, and the United Federation of Teachers pays this guy millions of dollars. It's also an improper practice for employee organizations to do the same thing, interfere or coerce employees in the exercise of their rights granted under 12-305 of this chapter. What the UFT and DC 37 did was interfere or coerce unions to agree with the MLC agreements to enrich their unions, and it was encouraged by OLR. The MLC is not a negotiating body, even though it says it is. It has no power under the law. It can act as a coalition, but even so, a union does not have to participate in the coalition, and membership or dues paying does not commit to that, as those funds were to pay OCB salaries for those neutrals and the labor chairs. And in our opinion, Alan Klinger was wrong to have convinced the unions to do the MLC agreements, that it would largely benefit the UFT and then DC 37, and that interfered with unions' mandatory subjects of bargaining. Unions can only represent those in their union for wages, hours, and work conditions, which includes health and welfare fund benefits. And those belong to you, not a coalition, not a committee. And your members can hold you accountable. This MLC voting, I explained, was one vote for every 250 members of the union, or prorated if it's less. This needs to be changed. This was put in place in 1966 when the largest union in the MLC at the time was DC 37. And the 2/3 motion was required to vote, was required to pass any motion. Many unions needed to support it, but the UFT didn't join, like I said, the MLC until the late 80s or early 90s, and that changed the entire construct. So today, the UFT and DC 37 can basically pass that motion on their own. You won't know that because the MLC violates its own bylaws, and it never tells you when they vote, and they're supposed to do this quarterly, what the membership certified for each union is. When a vote is called, Harry Greenberg is supposed to say, United Federation of Teachers, 120,081 members, 480.3 votes, but they never tell you that. And the last time one of the unions asked that in a roll call vote, he was shot down and told that he didn't have to answer the question. That was wrong, a blatant violation of Robert's rules and of their own bylaws. Now, this was frustrating because we know that they've been doing this, and this still needs to be under daylight. So we're asking also for change for democracy, to protect and preserve collective bargaining in the city, that union relations and the sanctity of what was created in 1966, that we don't want this to continue. The MLC has been manipulated by lawyers, consultants, and the two largest unions in the city. Make this right, or you will have destroyed your own healthcare program and labor as you know it. And that is concerning to us. So again, the one person, one vote, we want them to change this voting structure, and that's not what they're using today. So in order to get, I'm not going to go into all of this. I will leave this attached, but the rules of Robert's rules embody fundamental principles of parliamentary law, such that rules that only allow one question to be considered at a time or cannot be suspended even by a unanimous vote. Thus, its fundamental principle of parliamentary law, the right to vote is limited to the members of an organization who actually are present at the time the vote is taken in a regular or properly called meetings. You will find that the MLC violates its own bylaws and its own rules, and depending upon what they want or don't want to do, because right now the Municipal Labor Committee is going to hold a vote on September 30th, and this is why this is concerning. Every union in the city of New York that has a bargaining certificate has the right to bargain for their members for wages, hours, and work conditions, including health care. Not the MLC. The MLC has no bargaining certificate. The United Federation of Teachers can't bargain for the laborers. The laborers can't bargain for the bridge and building painters. They have to only work for within their own unit and for their own union members. Now we have this proposed healthcare plan, which sounds great on its face, right? Many of our retirees that are non-Medicare that live around the United States are struggling right now with the GHI CBP plan because they don't have doctors or access to hospitals. And yet this new plan is promising that with the United Healthcare Network. However, we need to caution you again. They promised when they did the RFP in 2022 for this plan that they would save $1 billion, 10% of the cost of healthcare. And yet in what they were sharing, when we begged them to look at the contract, we told them, look at the contract. Finally, they give them a contract highly redacted, and they give them one day to view it at DC 37 headquarters in Lower Manhattan on Barclay Street between like 10 and 3. And they notified you on Friday, and I think it was like a Monday or a Tuesday in which this was going to happen. That's not enough time. And it's also preventing the entire board of a union from going to see it or bringing it to their advisors or their attorneys or their health policy experts. That should never be. And you have to always wonder, if someone is trying to tell you, it's like that used car sales pitch, look, this deal is only good for the next 10 minutes. If you walk away, I'm going to give this deal to somebody else. Well, if they're pressuring you like that, then they're trying to get you to do something because they think if you think about it too long, you won't do it. So they want you to think that you're going to lose if you don't do it now. And that's part of the problem. Here we are again, making the same mistakes we made in 14 and 18, and yet by the two largest unions who have the most to benefit from this. We all want a great healthcare plan, whether it's Medicare or non-Medicare. But what DC 37 and the United Federation of Teachers has done over the last decade was tell us that we have no reason to trust them. No transparency. There's no democracy. You're not giving us time to look at the documents. Now, remember, in 2021 and 2023, two courts, the United States Supreme Court gave us, the New York Supreme Court, gave us a temporary restraining order in the Campion case and then the Benkowski case in 23 by saying the same thing, that the city and the MLC did not provide enough information to our retirees to be able to make a decision for them and their families, and it was arbitrary and capricious, and stop the plan from being implemented. Twice. We reminded we reminded the city's Office of Labor Relations that this happened. And we even gave them a link to all the documents in which the judge granted the restraining order. And we said, you're doing this a third time. We are retirees. You didn't invite us to the table. You didn't invite us to this meeting. And yes, Long Beach, absolutely. Sorry, I'm not even totally forgetting all the comments. This is deja vu all over again. Unions don't have enough information, and I'm hoping this time that they're educated enough to say enough of this bullshit. Healthcare, this is huge. And what is the two largest unions in the city of New York doing under the Municipal Labor Committee with their legal attorneys, Alan Klinger? negotiating away healthcare repeatedly. Now, this contract doesn't tell you anywhere that it's guaranteed for 5 years. It doesn't tell you that there's guaranteed for 5 years premium free. It doesn't tell you that the copays won't go up. It doesn't tell you what the prior authorizations are. All you're hearing from, these two wizards and everybody else is basically saying, "Oh, it's a wonderful healthcare plan and it's premium free, quality healthcare." Okay, so it's premium free. It's premium free for how long? It's premium free, copay free, deductible free, prior authorization free? Oh, no. We've reduced the prior authorizations by 50%. 50% of what? What were the prior authorizations in the CBP plan? Because what we know is that every time they went to find more savings or healthcare was going higher, they went back to the MLC and were negotiating more prior authorization to control the cost. So you were seeing more denials and delays of care. We need a good healthcare plan, but we also need transparency. And these same knuckleheads argued before the city council to staff and fund and create the Healthcare Office of Accountability with Julie Menon in the city council to create an organization an office that would have healthcare accountability and expose the healthcare costs and suppress or control the costs for the hospitals. Well, if you're looking to do that, and the hospitals, why are you not willing to have that transparency and protection right here at home in our own backyards? We need to make sure that this plan, so you guys also know, this current plan that they're trying to pass affects the mayor, the commissioners, the deputy mayors, and the city council, and all policymakers. This is their healthcare too. What are they doing about it? Why aren't they asking the questions? You have now yet the two largest unions with their overpriced consultants, Siegel and Milliman and Alan Klinger, and trying to convince them that this is what they need. And they have to get it done. And of course, he's part of the tripartite committee. So yes, absolutely, deja vu all over again. Groundhog Day, here we go. I know, I'm telling you, this is the ridiculousness of this. The ultimate insurance. You know what? I've been doing this for over 30 years. It's truly frustrating to me to keep watching this, uncovering the scheming of backdoor dealers, truth to power. Listen, yes, this MLC is supposed to hold a meeting at 10 a.m. at DC 37 headquarters on Tuesday. And if you'd like, hey, I can't make it there, but hey, go take your signs and go and protest right in front of 125 Barclay Street. I cannot be in Manhattan on that day, but if you want to go and make sure that your union leaders are listening to you, the message should be how many prior authorizations, what is in the network, what is the deal? Where's the scheming? We want to know how many prior authorizations there are. What are they on? Who can change them and how often they can do that? Are there no copays for the 5-year term? If they don't meet the $1 billion savings, what's going to happen after the first 12 months? Remember, they locked in a 5-year contract with this agreement. If they lock in a 5-year contract, what are the terms in that 5 years? If they're not meeting their savings after the first year, can they then start to impose $50 copays on all of the members, or $100 copays, or $10 copays, or $25? Look, they told retirees on Medicare you would have $15 copays. They didn't tell you it was $15 on everything. I walked out of the doctor's office last month. I got hit with $60 in copays. They literally dinged me on $15 for every single thing. That's not what you were told. And I bet you every one of the MLC unions, if we called them today, didn't know that that was what was going to happen. What will happen under this plan? It's not spelled out. And it wasn't, the copays weren't spelled out before. We can't even find any official documents, and we've been denied every FOIL since we've filed them. That's not transparency. If they don't meet the $1 billion, what are you gonna pay? When does it start? How often does it go up? And who makes those decisions and how often? When do the prior authorizations change? Remember, in the Aetna Medicare Advantage plan, they could change the prior authorizations every 2 years, and they is the city and this little municipal labor committee. You had no say. And when we bitched and complained and sued, they then said, oh my God, you're right. We shouldn't have had that many prior authorizations. We'll suspend a chunk of them for the first 2 years, and the city will pay $15 per person per month to suspend that chunk of prior authorizations. But after 2 years, we're going to reevaluate that. Now, that's a cost to the city, that $15 per person per month. So what's going to happen? If Michael Mulgrew or UFT, DC 37, Henry Garrido goes and says, hey, listen, I need to come up with more money for my contract. We got to get rid of that $15 a person a month that the city's paying to suspend those prior authorizations. Guess what? They negotiate that away. Then you are paying more for prior authorizations. Either you're paying it in form of premium or deductibles or higher copays, or you're getting sacked with more prior authorizations, or all of the above. This is why we keep saying the United Federation of Teachers is misleading people to say that this plan was wonderful. They never looked at the details. And yet their healthcare committee voted to go ahead and support the plan and pass it to the delegate assembly, which votes on the 29th, one day before the MLC meeting. They don't know the details, and we keep saying they don't know what they don't know. You have people like Mr. Grubiak and Emily James on their social medias attacking us for saying where is all the details on these issues. They're just given the talking points to promote this. That's not what they should be looking at. What's on the face is what's wonderful. It's what you're not telling us. Just like the last time, they gave us these like 2 sheets that had multicolored lines, and some were blue and some were darker blue and some were white. And they only told you all the positives and what they wanted you to know. They didn't tell you that they were forcing you into a managed care plan with major prior authorizations, with a narrow network that had managed care implementations in it. If your healthcare bills hit a certain point, you triggered a managed care person under the guise it was saying, oh, we're going to take care of you and we're going to help you manage your care and we're going to call you. No, they're looking to control your costs because your healthcare costs are costing them. That's what they call medical loss ratio. They're given a certain amount of money typically in these Medicare Advantage plans that they want to try to keep as profit. But if you're spending it, it's more out of their pocket, and it's less profit for them. So this plan, while this does not affect a Medicare eligible person, it has some of the same designs that we're getting concerned, because this is exactly what they did to us before. The MLC is acting as a bogus illegal committee. The unions who sign or go along with this charade are also guilty of not filling out their fiduciary responsibility of their dues paying members. And you're absolutely right, because they're not calling them out on it. There are a few unions that are, but I don't know. We have to see. You have all the material for a lawsuit. Go for it. So, and no, Chris Marte can't help with this. This is the city. Harry Greenberg, Harry Greenberg is part of this. He's part of the MLC. He's one of their in-house lawyers. How do we get them to do it appropriately? So, Debbie, what you have to do is you have to call your former union if you're a retiree, or call your union if you're active, and tell them that they have to hold that they have to get these details. We literally, and I'll put it when this hits, let me see if I can pull that up. We sent a letter to all of the unions, and we told them, like, this is happening again. You need to pay attention to this and do the right thing, because you have a responsibility to your members. And if you don't, this is going to be a problem. You have to make sure that you represent them properly. By doing what you're doing isn't representing them properly. By letting the MLC handle this when you may disagree with it, why are you allowing them to force you into a plan that maybe you don't feel you're ready for, or you don't have enough information? If you don't have enough information, basically what you should be saying is, I'm sorry, I don't have enough information to vote on this. I abstain. And there's a couple of unions that typically do that, one specifically being the PBA, and they are constantly being mocked for doing that. But they learned a long time ago that the union does not, the union has to represent their members, right? And they also learned a very long time ago that Office of Collective Bargaining and Office of Labor Relations are encouraging this vote for the MLC because they don't want to have to negotiate with like 160 unions. So in doing that, what are they doing? They're encouraging the MLC to manipulate this vote and vote the way it wants to vote. And sadly, they get away with it just about every single freaking time. It's so sad. I can't even, and no matter, we've been trying to explain this to them for 4 years. And yet in all of that time, no matter what we do, we just seem to struggle getting the message across. It is every union's responsibility to negotiate for their union members, not like this. This isn't supposed to happen like this. I'm still looking for that. I'm still looking for the email that I sent out because I want to send you the link. I'm pretty sure I put that even in the email I sent you guys the other day. Let me see if I can quickly, is this it? View in browser. Okay, let's see. So this is the email, if this lets me load it. Nope, it's not letting me do it. For some reason, well, I know there's got to be a way. Click here to view it in a web browser. And it should let me. So if I can ever get this thing up, what it does is I wrote to the union leaders and I said to them that this New York City plan might be great, but we all need more information. And then I reminded them first that 2 courts gave us a restraining order for not having enough information and that we wanted to work with them and not against them. We also knew that they were threatening that DC 37 was that they were going to they were threatening that if this didn't go through, what they were going to do was, the city was going to push us into Medicare Advantage. That's what why we believe the mayor said, listen, we're not going to do Medicare Advantage at this time. We found other savings, that they're looking at this being the savings that they were hoping to get, that they were not going to get out of Medicare Advantage, and that if the plan doesn't go through for whatever reason, that they would end up coming back to us. But also today, I was given DC 37 minutes that specifically state that once this negotiated acquisition is done, that they are going to do it. They're going to rebid senior care. So I don't know what they're going to put in that. And that will be, once again, another position in which we will not have a seat at the table unless we fight for it. And that's not how this should be going. So I guess it's like we're going to just end up, I guess, in a constant fight with them because they're going to keep, unless we can find a way to educate these people on whatever position that they have to learn not to keep trying to steal from retirees. And this was a really bad precedent that DC 37 and the UFT sent. So this link, and I don't know if you guys will be able to click this or not, but I'll put this link. Can't post comments. Okay, so let me see if that actually went in as a link. And if it didn't, I will, nope, it doesn't look like it came up as a link. So when you see this, if you can copy paste it, if not, I will put it in the description of the YouTube live. So go to the YouTube live and go and look for that. Everyone will be eventually in the same boat. Once they all get their way, they will chip away at all the benefits. But they're not supposed to be negotiating away their benefits. This is what I keep saying. That is not unionism. That's not what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to be defending that. All my active worker coworkers have have emblem HIP, they won't be touched because they are new hires, so they won't be touched, right? And so, Marianne, what they did was and they stopped doing that, I think, by force, because at first they were doing the first 12 months, and they left it 2 years. They were putting all active new hires into the HIP HMO plan. Who in the active employee arena is working on this? Long Beach, I don't understand what you mean by who in the active employee arena. Every single active union this will affect. This plan is for active workers and non-Medicare retirees. Has the MLC historically behaved this way? No, I will tell you that started probably this selling off healthcare was started in 2014 under Michael Mulgrew. Can the reduced benefits lead to lower benefits for UFT retirees regarding New York State regulations moratorium clause? So, Mike, that's a really good question. You would have to prove that the new plan would be a diminished benefit. And since both employees and retirees are going into the same plan, chances are it's not. Because the moratorium clause states that that school district unions, employees, teachers, they cannot diminish a benefit for a retiree unless they equally diminish it for an employee. Right now, you both are in the same plan, non-Medicare, of course, but yes. So I don't think that would have any effect. I am a current UFT employee. I'm trying to tell my coworkers, do your homework on this. And our last contract, people are lazy, blind, and too trusting. It's frustrating. And yes, unfortunately, they think just because the union is saying it, that it's gospel, but it's not, because we are proof positive as Medicare retirees that the union's Municipal Labor Committee leadership, UFT DC 37, literally lied and sold us off. They privatized our Medicare. It was the default plan of Project 2025. They put us in managed care. They privatized a federal public health benefit. They sacked us with copays we are still struggling with, that were never on a Medicare eligible retiree in 60 years. And it wasn't a $15 copay a visit. They're up to $60 a visit, because you get dinged $15 for every single thing. Mind you, you are an active teacher. I don't know what your salary is, but my pension's $35,000 and I make more than most of my retirees. So if you're going to ding me for $60, what's that going to do? One, prevent me from going to see the doctor when I need it. That's preventing me access to health care, which I will probably die from. Or two, put me in medical debt. And that's what Michael Mulgrew and Henry Garrido and the leadership of the MLC did. And yet, your coworkers want to trust the very people that did that. And why? Because they don't know this. If they listened to us, they would know this. Because right now, that's what we're fighting. And they probably don't even know we've been in court for 4 years and spending millions of dollars and lobbying against the city council to try to pass a bill that the same union that screwed us has been lobbying against, using their dues, their copes, and their people's money to fight us so that they can keep taking from us to keep funding your plans and keeping you guys premium free. That's what put you in this exact position. Sorry. What does Mulgrew say? Mulgrew loves the plan. What can I tell you? He doesn't want you to ask questions that you should be asking. If the unions don't represent, then what's their purpose? The unions represent members in their union, in their collective bargaining unit. Retirees are not in unions and they're not in collective bargaining agreements. They're not covered by those agreements. You are retired. Even if I know some of you UFT people are diehard, I'm in my union. You're not. You are a loyalty member of your union. You are not in the collective bargaining agreement. Your contracts that they negotiate tomorrow don't impact you. You cannot vote on those contracts. You're not in the union. You are a loyalty member. Hard stop. You are not in the union. And I'm tired of having to explain this. You had one of your guys, lambasting me the other day in an email thread. You're not in a union. You are a loyalty member. When you don't vote on contracts, and you're even the UFT, you have a partial weighted vote, small vote of retirees. 23,000 of your 89,000 retirees can vote in the UFT election. You're not a whole person. That doesn't make you a member because you have this small thing. What they're doing is the union was designed, the UFT, to keep the retirees attached to the union. One, you pay a COPE. They want your money because they then can use the power of collective action of all of your wallets in this situation to help lobby against you. They're right now lobbying against our bill in the city and our bill in the state. And we've done videos on that showing you the legal filings that the union had to file, showing you that they did that. And they've been trying to rob Medicare retirees and force you into, it was Mulgrew that was pushing this plan the whole time. And he only walked it back because the retired teacher chapter and the para chapter unsat the unity leadership. So that's not honest. I've been calling everyone today, including Henry Garrido, and nothing. I even wrote the mayor's office. Don't be shocked if you don't get an answer. They may be self-serving, manipulative puppet masters. Mulsker and Garrido enjoy their trip to hell, and maybe that'll happen. Maybe, I don't know. I just don't know. The 5 to 6 person monthly meeting, who checks this? They can change every year now. The self-insurance feature means that there's no Department of Financial Service oversight, correct? With what the fuck? No oversight. Okay, so what does self-insuring do? It literally, because they're not paying premium and the plan isn't being, there's no oversight under DFS, the Department of Financial Services, then they're not paying those HICRA taxes. And if you remember, that's the tax that Jessica Ramos was talking about when we did one of those interviews. And when we were talking about this, many people don't understand this, but there is a tax and it's called the healthcare reimbursement account. And every premium on health insurance in the state of New York has this tax on it. For the city of New York, it's about $30 million that goes to the state on these premiums. It's a small amount of money, but they were trying to save everywhere they could. By self-insuring, by the city paying the cost of healthcare and not putting the premiums through DFS, they're saving that tax, but there's no oversight. And so when you say that some of the retirees have said, hey, listen, does all of the mandates, the health mandates under DFS, are those in this plan? Well, you'll heard Michael Mulgrew or Jeff Sorkin say that all the healthcare mandates like IVF and gender affirming care, all of that stuff that the state mandates is in this plan. Well, it's only in this plan as long as they want it in this plan. Some states who have self-insured, or like 32BJ or some of these other unions, CalPERS out in California, they don't do that. They pick and choose what mandates they want to follow. There's also nothing in this agreement that says they must follow the mandate. Also, this agreement that they're going to support on the 30th at the MLC is a ASO, Administrative Services Organization contract. It is a contract that's between, and they keep saying it's not a contract, it's an ASO. This is an agreement between the insurance companies and the city, not the unions. The insurance company and the city. I have yet to see any agreement between the city and the MLC unions that says this plan will be premium free for 5 years. This plan will have no increased copays in 5 years. This plan will have no deductibles in 5 years. The prior authorizations will not increase. I'm not seeing that. There is nothing that has been shown so far between the city and the MLC unions. Nothing. Nothing. So right now, you're taking them out their word for that. You were denied because MLC claims they're a private not-for-profit. They're not a governmental agency, but the city should have at least given us something, but they didn't. Let's hope they repeat the previous withering stupidity. So the court says, once again, not so fast. So, and that does lead me to the next thing. If in fact we decide that they're not giving us this information, and open enrollment starts November 1st to the 30th. If we're not given this information and they go to put this plan in place, the board of our organization needs to decide if we're going to file for a TRO once again. We're pretty good at this. This would be the third time we would be doing it and hoping for a TRO. Or probably it would be the fourth time, actually. So again, that takes funding. You see at the bottom, the little ticker, nycretirees.org. We're going to need funding in order to do that. So keep that in mind, because this looks like it's going to happen. The city's not answering our demand for this information. I'm telling you, they pulled this shit over the high holy days. I understand, Serena Mia. Absolutely understand. The state controller, Tom DiNapoli's office, will be contacted. This is a city issue. You should be contacting the New York City controller, Brad Lander, who would have to certify this contract. Just reminding you, this is a city contract, not a state contract. Ebeth says chapter leaders and delegates should vote no due to the fact that they redacted the contract of the United Healthcare information that will be shared on September 29th without allowing to exchange information to the chapter leaders of their schools. We will be voting without their input. How democratic is this union? Where is the transparency? I don't know, girl. Your union is one of the worst offenders in this. UFT service members, in-service members voted for Mulgrew because they were getting a $20 raise, no cares for retirees. The union is forever fractured in two parts. In service gave zero cares to the plight of retirees. Now they then find themselves in a similar fate. And you know what, Susan? I don't even think that they realize it's coming. Because you're going to have a honeymoon period for 12 months. Nothing says what's going to happen in 2027. They're not even thinking about that part. Even the PSC recognizes that something bad could happen in 2027 because it doesn't speak to the contract in the agreement that they saw, heavily redacted, what would be there. So, yeah, that's a problem. Let's see, jump down. I opened the link in a new tab. It worked. Great. So I want you to see that is the letter that I wrote to the unions, hoping to wake them the hell up, that these are questions that they should be asking before they vote on this. And if they don't have enough information, they shouldn't be voting. So thank you, Debbie, for letting me know that actually worked. Yes, we definitely do need to educate the actives. I will share in the morning with the actives. Thank you. Good evening. I've heard Cigna is now using AI. And by the way, so does this contract allow them to use AI decisions in prior authorizations. Why? Because it's United Healthcare. The 11th commandment, do not steal healthcare from retirees or in-service workers. It appears the UFT healthcare, that the UFT, you're missing half your comment there, Michael. Marianne, I decided since no one has answered, I will go to the office of Henry Garrido and speak to him in person. All right, girl, good luck. Maybe those representing the unions and the MLC need training on what they need to do. Hey, I'm available. Because they don't work for the members, they work for city getting kickbacks. Isn't this affecting active employees? Yes, Debbie White. Yes, this is an active worker non-Medicare plan. And you've also heard me say tonight that Henry Garrido, in his last executive board or delegate meeting, said that they were going to renegotiate PICA next year. And they were, because they haven't negotiated. They were trying to redo that. And they're going to renegotiate senior care for Medicare eligible retirees. They're going to rebid that plan. That then would affect us. So yes, these changes affect everyone, everybody, active and retired, whether Medicare or non-Medicare. And remember, you may be on Medicare, but you may have younger dependents that this plan will affect. This is why you all have to keep aware of what the hell's going on. Give your COPE to Marion. Yes, if you are in a union paying a COPE, you should not be paying your COPE if you're retired. I'm sorry, you're not in a union. If you are retired, if you're active and you want to pay your union a COPE, I mean, go right ahead. But if you're concerned about your future in retirement benefits, or that your former union is going to be working against you, I'm telling you right now, we did videos on this. I showed you legal filings of the MLC and UFT and AFL-CIO, of which the UFT is one, and so is DC 37, lobbying against our retiree legislation to protect our Medicare benefits. They're talking out their ass. They are literally using your money to lobby against you. So look at what your UFT and AFL-CIO are spending on lobbyists. AFL-CIO spent almost $1 million. Training Long Branch members make the union. I made my voice heard up until September 4th. I hear you. I forced the PSC to tell me that my retirees do not go to COPE. Marianne, is there a Zoom meeting Thursday for retirees at 10 a.m.? I don't know if I'm going to that. I think I'm in another meeting, Marianne. That's a DC 37 retirees meeting. But they also don't, as far as if it's in person, maybe you have a say, but usually when they're virtual, they don't let you speak. I called my council member to suggest he vote for Marte for speaker. I hope many do. Possible mass action. So, Mike, what I'd like to say is anyone who's making those phone calls on our homework tab on nycretirees.org's website, I gave you all of the council members and the emails to contact them. I also put a link to track your work so that you could tell us who you called and what the responses were. We need to see that feedback because I'm sure they're not answering you, but I want to know what answers you're getting so that way we could track some of this, okay? Who is over the MLC? Well, every union, I believe, is over the MLC, and that's only if they decide to command their power. We commanded the power over the MLC. We took the city to court. We said we've had enough of this, and we're actually debating whether we're going to sue the MLC now. So there's a whole bunch of things that we're talking about. Mike, I think someone had asked me, maybe it was Gerald, asked me a week or 2 weeks ago, can we sue the MLC? We're looking at it. We think that's coming next. But this TRO may need to be first, but we're working on it. So keep in mind, guys, there's about 4,000 of you that haven't made a donation going back before April, like since April, or I'm sorry, before April. So from 2023 to April. Some of you made a donation in 23. Some of you made a donation in 24. I went back and looked, and from 2023 to April of 2025, there are 4,400 of you that haven't made a donation. We need you to support this organization or we don't have a fight. We're fighting against behemoth unions who have millions of dollars to spend. We don't have that. So I need to ask those that are not donating, you need to donate because you've literally been benefiting from everybody else who's been funding this organization. Long Branch, Mulgrew, and Henry Garrido are the main squeeze on the MLC. I don't know what that means, Marianne. I set up my monthly donations to you. Thank you for all your work. Thank you, Debbie. I truly appreciate that. And hopefully you can get a few of your friends to do the same thing. You would think the New York City Council would be paying attention. And some of them have asked me, but they haven't come back a second time. Michael Antwerp, the UFT Healthcare Committee was given 2 hours to review a redacted version of the contract. A redacted contract is missing vital information. The entire contract has not been shown to any of the stakeholders. PSC is abstaining from voting on the plan because information is incomplete how the plan will function. I was not aware that health committee saw that contract. When did that happen? Long Beach. Loved Chris Marte on Marianne's Mondays. So I posted that to my Substack today, and I'm trying to figure out actually how to post a constant running podcast so you can put all of my shows up and listen to them on whatever, like Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so you can find them wherever you want. Chris Marte tells it like it is. His videos are wonderful. If you could follow him on Instagram, he's pretty fantastic. Can you speak to the fact that the welfare fund has a savings that comes from sharing members by name? Oh, okay. Thank you, Katie, for asking me about this. So one of the things that this healthcare agreement asks is that they wanted data from welfare fund drug plans. They want to know what drugs you are on. I think I'm freezing. I'm freezing. Okay, I'm back. They want to know what drugs you are on. So the 5 unions in the executive board of the MLC. That would be sanitation, UFT, DC 37, CWA 1180, and 237. Those 5 unions agreed to share drug data of their members to United Emblem. And that was like another savings. Let me see if I have that chart open, because I can tell you what they valued that as. Let's see. $100 million. So for those 5 unions to share their union's drug data, and I'm sure it's redacted, well, I don't want to say I'm sure. I'd like to believe it's redacted, would save the city $100 million. They were trying to get all the other unions to agree to that, and the other unions' welfare funds refused to agree to it. So I want you to know right now, the United Federation of Teachers, all of DC 37, sanitation, CWA 1180, and 237 all agreed to share their welfare fund drug data with the insurance company. And that was saving them $100 million towards that $1 billion. And that's another way. They want that data because it's another way of them being able to say that people are following what they're supposed to do that's prescribed for them to keep the cost down. So let's say you're diabetic, but you're not compliant, you're costing them money. They'll probably turn around and say that they're not going to cover you because you're not compliant, or they'll put you in a more stringent program or supervised program potentially because you're not doing what you're supposed to do and you're costing them more money. I will be donating. Thank you, Marianne. Yes, it happened last week. Donate monthly. I'm grateful for you and the education you share. Well, you are welcome and thank you. These are labor leaders. I feel like their sharks are circling us. Thank you, Marianne, for guiding us through this craziness. You're welcome, Laura. Donated monthly. You're so wonderful. Thank you, Lisa. I appreciate you. What the F are they? Why aren't they donating $10, $25? What the fuck? $10. I'm telling you, Serena Mia, it is the easiest thing to do. If everyone just donated, like 10 or $20 a month, it would be so easy. That would be your dues to, fund. You're funding litigation. You're funding your own protection. And until we can teach them a major lesson, and I think that's what it's going to take, we're going to have to sue the MLC. We're not going to have a choice. And if we do that, maybe that'll be the lesson that they need. Chris exposed the city council scoundrels. We need 18 supporters. We need more than 18 supporters. So I'm going to do a separate short video on that tomorrow because it's already late. But I want to do something tomorrow and exposing what the city is doing on these bills, which is literally the speaker, and give a little bit of a history. I might just go, depending on the weather tomorrow, sit in my bus with like Adrian and Eric and, have a come to Jesus moment with the Addams family. I don't know. Exposing what the two of them have done. Thank you for everything you guys do. You're welcome, David. We need council supporters. Yes, we do. Trisha, Arnold, and Emily told the chapter leaders to tell the chapters in our school that the UFT Healthcare Committee will be reviewing the redacted United Healthcare contract and share the info in September 29th, was all told to the chapter leaders. I was not aware that anyone got that contract. So if UFT Healthcare Committee got it, I'd be really interested to see, because for educators that they don't know what they're looking at and they don't know what they're not seeing. And if they don't have the same questions that I just relayed in that link that I sent to every union, those are questions that you should be asking. No one should be signing a contract without having those answers. Sorry. They agreed without our permission. Sorry, they did on Wednesday. Katie, I don't know what that means. They did what on Wednesday? They looked at the contract on Wednesday? Isn't it a little late? They already voted on it. Like, that's a little ass backwards, right? Like putting the cart before the horse. What are they supposed to do? Push it with their nose? Yeah, we voted for that. But now they're not going to say that they made a mistake because they already freaking did it. The $25 donation is less than my doctor copays every time. I know, I told you I got hit with $60 the other day. I donate monthly. It's easy. Thank you, Joan. We appreciate that support, and we are not going to stop fighting for you. Let's donate. I just did 50. Thank you, Donald. I appreciate that. Get your friends to participate because that's what we need. So, guys, we're hitting that hour mark, and I clearly want to, I know the first half of this, I'll probably cut out the Q&A and just leave the first half, or maybe leave this in 2 separate videos where you have the full Q&A, but put the informational part separate because that's like, less than 30 minutes. I want to try to keep that brief, even though it's really not brief at 30 minutes. I mean, people probably shut me off after 6, but if you have any voice in your schools, in your workplaces, if you're active, please let your members know. They should not be encouraging each other to support this plan without having the information. They need information. Our retirees that live nationwide need to know that they have access to doctors and hospitals, but they also need to know that they're not going to get creamed in costs if these hidden benchmarks are not met. We need to know what the costs are, what the savings are, what happens if those savings aren't met, where the savings are supposed to come from, what are the prior authorizations, how often they can be changed, what they're on. We need to have those answers, and the court stopped the plan twice because of those issues before. So can we come up with some juicy political cartoons? Well, if you can draw one, I mean, go right ahead. Let's send it to me and I'll put it in the newsletter. So share that link with as many people as you can and reach out to your council members too. I mean, you're calling their offices, asking them if they'd vote for Marte. While you're on the phone, say, hey, do you hear about this new healthcare plan? And when you call Julie Menin's office, ask to speak to her staff on the Healthcare Accountability Office. You want to know where they are with this plan. Why are they not speaking out when there's no transparency? There's no democracy. The contract isn't being shared. It's being hidden. They're not being told this before open enrollment, which starts November 1. How are you going to get out of this plan? Because this is going to replace GHI-CBP. GHI-CBP goes away. If they're going to auto enroll you into this plan and you don't know if it will work, you're stuck in this plan for a year. And the only way out of it is if you use your once in a lifetime at any time, or if you're in an area where you don't have doctors and you have to change plans. So I would make sure that if you're calling these council members' offices, you're asking these questions because now's the time. All right, guys, we're just over an hour. I want to say goodnight, and I will come back tomorrow and probably do a little video about Adrienne Adams and her power grab at her 11th hour and our intro. So hope this was helpful to all of you. Please share this. I will try to repost just the first part of it with all the information, and that's it, with leaving out the Q&A. But this live will always be here, so you could always refer back to those questions and answers. I will simply just edit this just to put the information at a pure just 25, 30 minutes and put it on our regular video stream on YouTube. The rest of this video will stay on YouTube Live. So if you're looking for our videos when they're live like this, they're going to be under the live tab. Sometimes I remember to download them and re-upload them up to the video screen. Just click over to live because every one of the lives are here. Have a great night, everybody. I totally appreciate you and for sticking with us throughout this fight. Looks like we're going to be together for a really long time. Love yous. Ciao.
Don't speak what you don't understand. The truth is not in your command. Don't shout about what you think is fake. The decision isn't yours to make. Don't lie about the way things are. Tall tales